Let's now take a look at the process of writing our unit tests. We typically use the AAA method, which is arrange, you initialize your variables within your test method, you act, you invoke the method on the class that you're trying to test, and then you assert, where we verify that the act returned what we thought it should. So let's take a look at the code we're going to write in our file name does exist unit test. We're first going to arrange, which is where we declare all the variables we're going to use within this method. We are then going to act, where we actually make the call to the method in our file process class, the one called file exists. We'll get back a value that I'm putting into a variable called from call, and then we assert. We use the assert class .isTrue, where we are asserting that the value that we're getting back from the file exists is a true value. If it is, the test then passes. We've talked around this assert class, but basically all it is a class with methods that we use to test conditions coming back from our methods that we're testing. If the conditions are not met, an exception is thrown, which means the test is going to fail. But if the condition is met, then the test is going to pass. The assert class has a lot of methods, but there's just a few that we're going to use most often. Things like isTrue. If the value coming back from the method that we call has a true value, the test passes. IsFalse. If the value coming back has a false value, the test passes. REqual. If some value, maybe a string or something, is coming back, or a decimal, a numeric is coming back, and that one is equal to what you're expecting, then the test passes. We also have an RNotEqual. And we have one called fail, and we're going to take a look at this one later, but this is how we actually can fail a test on our own. All right, let's take a look at our demo here of testing for a valid file name. You can see on lines 11 through 14 the arrange part. This is exactly like what I had on the slide. File process fp equals new. We create a new instance of our class. We're going to create a string called file name that is going to be set to some file that we are pretty sure exists, and then bool from call. On the act portion on line 17, from call equals fp.fileExists, passing in that file name, and hopefully it's going to return a true value. We then use that in our assert, assert.isTrue. If what is in the parentheses of the isTrue method is a true value, this test will pass. Let's go ahead and run this. So we come over to our Test Explorer, and we can click on the little icon here that says Run All Tests in View. And now we can see that we have one test that has passed. The others are still inconclusive, but file name does exist, has passed our tests. Let's now write the code for the test for an invalid file name passed to that file exists method. On lines 26 through 29, it's basically the same code. The only difference is I have put in a bad file name, one that I know does not exist. We then do our act, where from call equals fp.fileExists on that file name. And now we're using the assert.isFalse method, which says that whatever you pass to this, if it's false, the test will pass. Once again, let's go ahead and go over to our Test Explorer, and let's run all the tests. And if we've done everything correctly, we should now see that we have 2 unit tests that have passed. There's the file name does not exist, and the file name does exist are the 2 passing tests.